Do you recognize one of the grandest ships that ever carried the British flag?
Georgic is the first big ship to be launched from a British shipyard.
She had a wonderful war record, sinking 2 enemy submarines and carrying thousands of troops in safety. They called her the Old Reliable.
In the 1860s, Thomas Ismay bought a shipping line called the White Star Line. He would order the construction of a class of revolutionary ships called the Oceanic class. These ships would quite quickly become successful. Now this meant that other shipping lines were trying to one-up the newly refounded White Star Line. This ultimately led to the White Star Line building 2 newer and larger ships. These ships were to be called the Hellenic and the Germanic. Early on into the construction process, she was renamed to Britannic. On the outside, she resembled her predecessors, the Oceanic class, with one major exception. She had 2 funnels, making her one of, if not the first White Star liner to have this number of funnels. Her yard number was 83, and she, like many ships in that time, would have masts. Her propeller would be an experimental one with the ability to be raised and lowered out of the water without disabling the engines. This didn't catch on, as it was practically useless. The Britannic was to be a very light ship compared to modern standards, coming in at around 5,000 gross registered tons. She was designed to carry 1,720 passengers. Her cabin class accommodations were stunning, however the same cannot be said for storage when compared to modern standards, as they were dormitory style cabins that offered little to no privacy, which is still a major step up compared to the dark, leaky conditions on other ships. The Britannic was going to be built by Harland and Wolff, and like many other ships on this channel, would go on to have a nice and peaceful construction process, being completed on the 6th of June 1874. The Britannic's maiden voyage was smooth sailing. Get it? However, the same can't be said for the rest of her career, as in March of 1876 the Britannic decided to catch fire in Belfast whilst the propellers were being worked on. Thankfully though, she'd make it out unscathed. Now, after her fire damage was repaired and her propellers were replaced, the Britannic would go on to win the Blue Riband, though she wouldn't hold it for very long, as her sister the Germanic would steal it from her. Then, in 1878, she would collide and sink a tugboat. But this wouldn't be the last time the Britannic would have a collision, as in March of 1881 the Britannic would go on to collide with a schooner. Then later that same year, the Britannic ran aground in Kilmore due to the fog. Initially, it was believed that the Britannic hadn't sustained any major damage until they noticed that a leak had sprung in the engine room. But thanks to the efforts of the salvage team that was dispatched to her, the leak was soon plugged, and the temporary swimming pool was gone, and the Britannic was refloated shortly after and sent to Liverpool. But unfortunately, this incident doesn't stop there, as on her way to Liverpool, the Britannic sprung yet another leak in the engine room, which led to the Britannic being beached again, this on purpose, and the hole being patched up again by someone who was probably starting to think the Britannic was Rockstar Games' new headquarters. After being refloated yet again, the Britannic was sent off for repairs and was pushed back into service later that month, though this wouldn't be the last mishap the Britannic would be involved in. On the 18th of May 1887, the Britannic and the Celtic decided it'd be fun to get close. Really close. In fact, so close that both ships collided with each other, leading to a massive commotion on deck of the Britannic, as everyone thought she was going to sink. But as you can tell by the fact that this episode isn't over yet, she didn't, and would sail into New York with the Celtic and was later repaired and put back in service a month later. Then, in 1890, the Britannic decided it'd be fun to collide with another ship and sink it. However, it wasn't all bad, as in 1891, the Britannic somehow made her fastest crossing yet. In October of 1899, the Second Boer War broke out. This meant that Britain would need ships, so they decided to requisition the SS Britannic and convert her into a troop ship. Whilst in this role, she would sail a voyage to Australia with a guard of honour on board, which was supposed to be the British representative in the inauguration of Australia. Unfortunately, on her way back from this voyage, she would end up grounding in the Suez Canal, and she would later be refloated and continue to serve as a troop ship until the war's end in May of 1902, when she was finally handed over to the White Star Line, who initially wanted to modernise the Britannic for further use, similar to what they did with her sister ship, the Germanic, a few years earlier. However, it was decided that it would cost too much to modernise the Britannic, so it was decided to scrap her. Before this photo was taken with the soon-to-be-completed Cedric, which showed how much bigger ships had gotten in the 30 years since she'd entered service. The Britannic would sail on her final voyage to Hamburg on the 11th of August 1903, ending the career of the Germanic's forgotten sister.